Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/JuCowFTW.
Check out our blog where you can listen and download our shows at jucowftw.blogspot.com.
And find us on iTunes by simply searching for Jucow's Podcast Kingdom.
And submit your questions to us at ask.fm/Jucow. We will answer them all each week on Undressed to Impress with a Girl.
You were cute and popular, I was just a little nerd. Right about now you're making me feel perturbed. I was the gross kid that you teased in gym, and when you got my hopes up, you run back to him. Do you remember me? Well, let me refresh your memory. As I kill ya, I'm a homicidal maniac, so you better watch your back. I got a knife and I'm using it tonight. Whoa, you used to put me down, soon you'll be in the ground, and then I'll be feeling alright.
Welcome to another episode of PSYCOW. I'm Kyle,
I'm Stacy.
and this week we have a very special guest. Leatherface himself joins us, Dan Yeager.
Dan Yeager. And he was such a pleasure to have on the show, and I love talking to him. Definitely gave me new insight on Texas Chainsaw 3D. So yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those movies that was kind of argued over whether it was good, bad, because you have diehard Texas Chainsaw Massacre fans, which I'm a huge fan, but I really enjoyed the 3D. I'm not going to watch it in 3D just because I'm opposed to everything 3D, but I liked the movie itself, and I remember talking about it for a while on our shows. And it's really cool to get to talk to the man behind the mask and actually hear what Leatherface sounds like.
Yeah, he sounds so nice.
Yeah, so he's not grunting, so it's different.
Exactly.
But yeah, we get to talk to him for a good, I think, 45 minutes to an hour. Real nice guy. Awesome stories he tells us. So we're going to stop talking and let you listen to us talk again to Dan Yeager. Were you a horror fan growing up?
Me? Yeah, heck yeah.
What were some of your favorites growing up, other than Texas Chainsaw?
Let's see. Actually, I was in high school when I'd heard of Texas Chainsaw. Let's see. Yeah, growing up, I loved the classics. When I was a little kid, I grew up in a small town not far from Cleveland, and Cleveland always had great television. And there were several weekly shows that showed horror movies or Japanese monster movies. Ultraman and Johnny Sacco were always on Saturdays, and I just grew up with movies. Mostly the classics. I mean, I always loved the old Universal monster movies.
It's where everyone has to start out, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a gateway movie kind of thing.
Well, you said that you heard of Texas Chainsaw Massacre when you were in high school. Is that when you first saw the film, or did you see it a little bit later on?
Yeah, actually, it was. There was a lot of talk, back in the late 70s, early 80s, and I forget which company re-released it in, I believe it was 81, and me and some buddies went to see it at a drive-in in Las Vegas for the first time, because it was notorious, It was banned in, so many countries and all this stuff. So we were all hyped to see it. And I remember, it was not too long after seeing that movie that my parents bought a VCR. And, that was one of the first tapes I bought.
Oh, wow.
Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, I remember seeing it, and it really stands out as one of the more gruesome movies, even though there's no gore in it, really.
Yeah, the thing I really, the quality I love about it is that when you recall it, it's like recalling your own nightmare. It has the same. I have nightmares just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So. Although no chainsaws really.
Right. I don't know if it's good or bad. I mean, I guess it's good. It keeps it interesting.
Yeah, no.
Definitely. It has like a gritty, like that. I don't know, it just feels dirty. Like, you almost feel dirty when you're watching it. It's one of those films, to me at least. You're like, oh man, this, it's something like crazy is going to happen.
It's very personal.
Yeah.
And it really does descend into madness.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
To where it's non-linear and it's especially in the dining room scene when Sally's in and out of consciousness. It's just it is so nightmarish. That's I don't know. That's what I love about it, though.
Definitely. And were you a fan of the sequels? Like the second one, the Leatherface that came out, and Next Generation. Were you fans of those?
Yeah, I honestly, I think all of the Texas Chainsaw Massacres have a point of view and something to offer. The Texas Chainsaw 2 was hilarious.
Yes. It's one of my favorites.
But it still brought enough macabre imagery, to be a Texas Chainsaw movie. 3 was so avant-garde that it's but again it's a valid take on the theme.
I hadn't seen the third one in a very long time, and I just rewatched it about a month ago, and I re-fell in love with the movie. I love that movie. I think it's great.
Yeah.
And then Next Generation, though, I've never, I don't know, maybe it's Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey that took me out of it, but I just couldn't get into that movie.
Yeah, that's another one. I mean, it really just got so bizarre. There's kind of a running set of themes through the Texas Chainsaw movies. In the original one, it's that the stars were aligned for this great evil to take place. And you were helpless against it.
Absolutely.
And I think that kind of evolved eventually into the government. There's a whole conspiracy of how the world works, and you were powerless against it.
Right.
And then by the time you get to our movie, it's just God.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the movie, when the trailer first came out, I gotta admit, being a big horror fan, I was nervous and skeptical, because when I hear about another installment of one of my favorite franchises, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. But it turns out, I mean, I loved Texas Chainsaw 3D. I actually talked about it on our show for about a month. And your take on Leatherface was just about a perfect mirror of Gunnar Hansen's mannerisms. You did that to a T. Did you really work on his character by watching the movie over and over? How long did you work on the Leatherface character?
Oh yeah, I mean, as soon as they said you're going to be Leatherface in this movie, I mean, I really, and then I was confronted. I never thought about Leatherface as a character,
right?
As something to do, and that was a strange process to shift those gears and try and actually figure out all right, what is this character? Who is he? And I tried to actually avoid all of the sequels.
Right.
I mean, I watched them just kind of for the general flavor of the movies and to see, all right, what is the difference between, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, and 2000s, and just cinematically. But for the character, I mean, my entire goal was that people would believe that Gunnar Hansen and I were playing the same individual. And so I just went back to Gunnar's work and tried to run that through the filter of 20 years in a basement, living with his grandma taking care of him, angry that his family was slaughtered,
right?
and having lost everybody who, his entire world, crumbled. But he's still, the same scared, mentally and emotionally deficient individual who's profoundly lethal on top of it. He's got a violent streak that, none of us would want to contend with.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's not a Jason or a Michael. He has a personality. And that's what I think.
Oh, yeah.
He's an, and I said this before, and I got kind of a flack for it from some of our listeners. I said that Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw 3D was an anti-hero. He really was. He's doing what he thinks is right, and
sure.
I think he's the definition of an anti-hero. And I got kind of into an argument with some of the people that were like, he's not an anti-hero. I'm like, he's a bad guy. I'm like, no, he's not.
Yeah, I don't know. If you're not a little choked up at the end of Texas Chainsaw 3D for Leatherface, you have no soul.
Right.
If you can't see his humanity, I don't know.
How far would you go to protect your family is basically what he's doing. He's
Exactly,
protecting
yeah.
his family.
Yeah, and revenge. I mean, he's, but I think this is the clearest look we've ever gotten at Leatherface as, a character in a movie. He was used largely as just a killer in a lot of the sequels. In the original, there was a much larger ensemble of characters. And so, we saw him just in the context of the other characters. But in this movie, we really get a look at who this guy is.
I think over time they lost the ability of the humanistic aspect of Leatherface, and you guys brought it back, because in the original he was very human, and then later on he just becomes a psycho killer. I think in this movie you're right. You guys bring it back, full circle.
Yeah. There are a couple of scenes in the original that really clued me into who this guy was, and it's the one after the kids start coming in the house, and he runs to the front window to see who else is coming, and oh my God, he's scared to death.
Right.
It's just terrible. And he sits down and he's just fretting. He's constantly fretting, about all this stuff he has to do, and he's terrified of what the family's going to think. And then the other one is when, you see him in the kitchen cooking, he's very domestic. And when he and the hitchhiker go upstairs to get Grandpa, and they bring him down to the dining room table, and they set him up, and Leatherface actually pats him on the head and kisses him.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So he has that emotional
that
attachment.
Who that guy is.
Yeah.
And,
do you remember... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you remember meeting Gunnar for the first time? Because did you get to meet him on set? Because he was in the film.
We met in the Sawyer house.
Mm-hmm.
We rebuilt that house stick by stick.
Oh, wow.
The back part of it never got finished, but then you never see it in the movie. So, but yeah, they went to Texas and measured the original house and took photographs and blew up every frame of the original movie, to get the wallpaper, the details, everything. I mean, they did it as exact as they could, and which was pretty darn cool, because when Gunnar and Marilyn Burns walked in, I mean, they were blown away. It was the same house. So, and when Gunnar and Marilyn arrived, we were shooting 2 units. So I was on the other unit, which was shooting at night, and they were shooting during the day. But after we finished, after we wrapped, I went over to the other set. I had to meet Gunnar Hansen. I mean,
Definitely.
it was so weird. He's the first, he's the first real, movie star icon type guy I'd ever met.
And you're portraying him as well.
Pardon?
Oh, and you're portraying him as well, so added pressure.
Yeah, and then to and then I tried to wrap my head around the fact that geez, I'm standing before this guy, who especially after taking on the project, really came to admire his craft and all the work he did, and then to be standing in front of him, it was just really it was giddy fanboy time, and it was really embarrassing. He understood. He's such a nice guy. He's just so I mean, he's been nothing but kind and generous to me. I mean, and he helped me greatly. He's we had already been shooting some stuff, but he had a few pointers that.
What was auditioning for the part like for you?
Actually, it was going to a Christmas party. I had known the producer. The producer and I met when we were helping a mutual friend make a pilot for a TV show he had in mind. And I had started helping the guy. I had known him for a while and just started building him sets and stuff like that. And he used to work for the producer on a couple of movies. And so when we got this show kind of prepped, he called up Carl Mazzacone, the producer, and asked him if he'd come down and take a look at what we're doing and, bring his expertise to bear. And, of course, Carl's just the kind of guy you call him, you need a favor. He comes in and he actually, he's just that kind of guy. And so we started helping this guy make this show, and that's where we met. And then Carl also, donated some of his time to talk to this acting class that I was in, and trying to tell us all we were crazy for wanting to be actors. But anyway, so and we became friends. We found out we were interested in all the same stuff, cars and building stuff. We built a lot of stuff together. And anyway, and it was during that time that he had purchased the rights to Texas Chainsaw Massacre and was developing the script. And so they got the first draft, and he called me up and he said, "You want to read a script?" He knows I also write, and he just wanted my take on it. And so I read like the first draft of the thing, and gave him my opinion. There was plenty of stuff to be taken out of the first draft. But anyway, so I was aware of the thing the whole way through the development. And it wasn't until like August of 2010, we were just hanging out, talking about stuff with another mutual friend who's also my acting coach. And Jeff Salentano's his name. He said to Carl, you know who'd make a great Leatherface? And we both were interested in the answer. And he says, Dan. And I kind of blushed, but that was the first, that was the very first mention of it. And then it was never spoken of again. And it wasn't until Christmas time. I guess that kind of planted a seed maybe in Carl's head. He started to look at me as he's developing the script as, oh yeah, Dan's got the qualities that this guy should have. And that was where they really fleshed out and got down to the essence of who Leatherface is. And it just happened, I happened to always be around. And so he had talked to the director, and he said, I know this guy who might make a good Leatherface. But that was all he said. And then he invited us both to the same Christmas party. And John Lessenhoff, the director, he wrote a story for the Huffington Post. And he claims that he was standing in Carl's house talking to Mark Berg, who runs Twisted Pictures. And he kept looking past Mark And Mark was getting a little annoyed, and finally Mark says, "Man, she better be really something." You know. And then John swears this is true. He says, "You know what? I think I'm looking at Leatherface." And you know, we met at this party, and he never said anything to me. And it was like the following week, you know, Carl invited us both up to the house, and we were hanging out talking about the movie, and we realized, yeah, we all thought the same thing about it, and you know, it's just, you know, you always want to work with your friends. So yeah, that was the process, really.
That's pretty awesome. Did you have to throw a chainsaw around or anything for him, just so he would be sure? Like, all right, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, Carl and I had done plenty of projects together. You know, he knew my capabilities. So
That's good. From what it says, that they are going forward with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4.
We should try and clear that mess up. There is no Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4. I don't know where anybody ever came up with that.
Okay.
You know, it's just a bunch of nonsense. They haven't done anything on determining how they're going to move forward. Somebody put that on IMDb, and you know, it's just it's I don't know. I think it's somebody trying to make some point somewhere. I don't know. You know, Hollywood is full of people who just talk to hear themselves speak. There are zero plans to move forward. You know, the producer has the right to make 5 more. Whether or not he does that, he hasn't decided. You know, that's a big business decision. There's no script. There's no writer hired yet. You know, there's no director. It's all just, you know, it hasn't been decided. They were kind of waiting for the DVD numbers to come in, and you know, based on that, they would decide how they would move forward. Is it going to be an $8 million movie, or is it going to be a $25 million movie?
Right.
You know, based on the business it does. You know.
Well, would you want to portray Leatherface again?
Well, sure.
Good, because we think you are Leatherface at this point.
Absolutely.
And can I say, if anybody asks you that question, say yes.
Okay, I will.
I've never had a better job, I tell you.
That's great.
Yes, I will be back for the next one, if there is a next one.
Yeah, we're hoping so, because they definitely left it open that it could happen, which is good.
Yeah, there's lots of ways to go.
Definitely.
I'm just trying to figure out, so Texas Chainsaw 3D, they're calling it the third one. Like Texas Chainsaw, if there is another one going to be made, it's called 4, but it's kind of a sequel to the original movie. I think the order is so out of whack.
Yeah, it's our movie is really, you know, I mean, you could slip one in between, you know, kind of in the middle of ours, you know, after you know, we pretty much picked up exactly where, you know, we overlapped the original,
right,
and then took that, you know, moment by moment, you know, forward, you know, just to the next day, you know, played that out, but then, you know, it jumps, you know, forward in time from there. So you could slide another movie in between those pieces, but, you know, whether they'll do that, I don't know. I don't think so.
Right.
But, you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
Nobody
wasn't
knows.
sure. I wasn't sure if it was actually if it was just Texas Chainsaw 3, or since it was 3D, they called it Texas Chainsaw 3D, or if it was just Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, I don't know. Whoever came up with Texas Chainsaw 4 is just that stupid.
Right. That's what doesn't make sense. This is kind of like a reboot, but also a sequel to the first one. It's kind of like it moved everything up one. So this would be Texas Chainsaw 2, moving 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. That's what it seems like. That's what I like about it.
Yeah. I mean, according to our movie, you know, Texas Chainsaw 2 could never have happened.
Right.
It happened in some parallel universe, you know.
Right.
Do you have your eyes on any other projects or films relating to horror?
Yeah, there are a few in the works. Actually, I've got a script, and a good buddy of mine, Brett Wagner, has a great script, and we're out there panhandling for money. So I'm hoping we can get something together there. There are a few other movies out there that are talking. Nothing yet. There's a couple in development. I think one of them is going. They're taking the script into Lionsgate this week, so we'll hear something about that. I hope to have something to talk about there soon. It's a great kind of, not really a zombie movie, but certainly, one of those, epidemic kind of, all right, turned everybody into, bloodthirsty maniac movies.
Right. Well, we'll actually be seeing you again. We'll be seeing you. We're meeting for the first time in person at Horror Hound Weekend in September. How many conventions have you been to, and will you be regularly attending them?
Yeah, I've got right now on the books. I just have that one and the Atrox Factory down in Leeds, Alabama, in October. There's talk of other ones, but nothing has been confirmed. So.
Have you?
No, I enjoy it. I did London last month.
Oh wow,
that was a lot of fun. London's a great town.
Yeah,
Lovely
that would be amazing. Are you happy with the response the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has gotten, and all the fans coming to you, and all the questions and everything?
Oh yeah, people either love it or they hate it.
Right.
And I think that's good. The worst thing you can do is something people are just ambivalent about.
Right.
And, people, it's funny, they'll go to the Facebook page and somebody will say, your movie sucked, and everybody will get all upset and, defend the movie and people ask me, oh, don't you hate those haters who just say the movie? I said, no, those are the guys who keep the argument going for me. If it was just a big love fest, it'd be boring.
Right.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on.
Brings a lot more attention.
The movie has a lot of provocative stuff in it, and they took a lot of chances with it. I mean, obviously, they tried to translate, this classic, 70s horror, movie story into, 21st century, and that wasn't easy to do. And you certainly would ruffle a lot of feathers. I mean, it had there was some hip hop on the soundtrack,
Right.
That's dangerous movie making right there.
That is true.
Well, do you have a particular way that you would like to see the story progress? Is there a way that you would like to, if you were to write it, would you move it a certain way?
In broad strokes, I'd say that they need to figure out some way for the Sawyer line to continue.
Right.
And as Leatherface is the only male Sawyer that we know of, and I hope they don't introduce another character.
Yeah.
Another Sawyer character. Because I think that's always taken a chance.
Mm-hmm.
That, Leatherface is going to have a son of Leatherface.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And then maybe, he needs a break from Chainsaw Massacring and he wins a trip to Hawaii.
Leatherface goes on a picnic.
Now, I would definitely be interested.
And then maybe we'll do a Christmas TV special.
That'd be awesome.
Like the Star Wars one?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh, it's an Ewok Christmas special.
I think George Lucas pulled it. It was so bad. He was like, yeah, I don't want anybody ever seeing that.
It's on my computer right now.
I know, you have to
Wow.
get it illegally to get it, but yeah, it was bad.
And I like that. The last thing I'd say, I guess, about I know I'm running Leatherface in the ground. I think the last thing I'd say about Leatherface is I like the idea of him having like I don't want to say sidekick, but I guess it's kind of what she is, like a partner in crime now. I like because that line at the end was I believe it was something like give him hell, cousin, or something like that. I believe I can't remember the line.
Do your thing, cuz.
Right. I love that line.
That one, oh my God, people, that's the stupidest line ever.
I
don't
that.
know when people lost their sense of humor. I think
Right.
it's funny as hell to me.
I think it's great just that she's accepting of it already. Like she's like, do it, just kill him.
Yeah.
And one thing nobody's ever mentioned at the end when, and this is a spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen the movie, at the end when Leatherface cuts off the hands.
Right.
He does it in a rather dramatic way. He makes a big swoop with the saw, and the saw ends up over his head. And nobody's ever said anything about that. And that was kind of my. I mean, he had just been beaten on the edge of death, with a pipe,
Right.
and he's just exhausted. He's lost a lot of blood. And so, but it was kind of my little attempt to put a bookend on his dance at the end of the original movie.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Because I was hoping there was going to be like a still at that moment that you could, see the relationship. That's kind of who he is. I don't know. Anyway, nobody's ever mentioned that.
Well, now that you do, though, I definitely. I can't believe I kind of looked over that though. That's my favorite.
I can't either.
That's my favorite scene in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I can't really. I feel stupid for looking that over.
Well, no, it's. I mean, you really have to be obsessive. I mean, way beyond what any normal person who doesn't make a living at it should be.
I think the post-credit scene is awesome as well. Just kind of like the payback for. I love that. I love the whole comeuppance kind of post-credit scene.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, actually, that was the very first thing I believe that we shot in the movie, or that I shot in the movie, and David Bourne and Sue Rock, the actor and actress who play, Heather's parents there, who were standing on the porch. When we shot that scene, Leatherface comes out the door and they run screaming. And first shot we did, and really being the first time that a live chainsaw was on set, we learned something very important. Sue ran. I mean, that was really the first time she had seen Leatherface, and I think it worked. She ran screaming, the poor thing. And there's a long walkway that leads away from the house, and they took off running. And they had about a 10-yard lead, and she fell, lost a shoe, got back up and started running again. And meanwhile, I guess they had never intended on the scene going that long,
Right.
because everybody was screaming, cut, but we couldn't hear him because of the chainsaw. And so I chased them all the way out to the road.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
And so finally I realized, oh, well, we've gone so far that I don't think they can even see us. This is stupid. and so I turned the thing off, and I turned around, and the whole crew is just rolling on the ground laughing. Anyway, that was when we learned that somebody had to actually, there had to be some kind of visual cut, or
I was just going to keep chasing.
Yeah.
Those are great. Well, the thing we like to do on the show to end the show is it's kind of a speed round. It's 8 questions that we ask kind of in a quick fashion. Just first thing that comes to your mind is really the what's the scariest movie of all time?
The Exorcist.
Thank you. What's the best movie you've seen in the last 5 years?
The best what?
Movie you've seen in the last 5 years.
The best movie in the last 5 years. God, that's a hard one. Is The Green Mile in the last 5 years?
We'll take it. Well, I think it's the last
that's
10.
good enough.
Yeah, that's good. That's a great movie.
It is a great.
What's the? Well, I guess this is the easy one for you. What's your favorite movie you've worked on so far?
Oh, no question, Texas Chainsaw.
What's the worst horror movie monster of all time?
Probably that one. I can't remember what they. I don't know if they even called it anything. It was just this like big guy. It was a giant rubber suit, and it was this space monster that crash landed on the Earth, and then poor hapless folks would come upon it, and it was this giant thing, and I swear there were 2 people in it, and I wish I could remember the name of it. I've got it on one of those old, horror movie compilation CD packs of, the 100 worst horror movies. It was made in the late 50s.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look it up and I'll email you the proper name so you can.
I can believe you.
Oh my God! What a terrible movie! And a terrible movie.
Those are my favorites, though.
He was so slow and lumbering that the poor girls in the bikinis would have to wait for him, and they'd lie there and scream, and eventually he'd get to them, but and when he actually consumed one of the bikini clad women, I mean, it's really lurid. I mean, it's almost pornographic. It's hard to believe they would let them do that. You have to see it.
Yeah.
I'll find the movie and send it to you.
Yes, please. I definitely want to see this now.
Yeah, that's the kind of movies we watch and talk about on our show. We love old cheesy movies.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of cheesy, what's your cheesy guilty pleasure movie outside of horror?
Cheesy guilty pleasure movie. Let's see. I don't know. I don't think I have a cheesy guilty pleasure. I love Rocky Horror Picture, but that's got horror in the title, so that doesn't count.
Is Rocky Horror really horror, though?
No.
I think it's more musical, theater, comedy, creepy.
Oh yeah, I just didn't want to.
That's a great
horror in the title.
Right.
Tim Curry.
You could throw it on a technicality.
Tim Curry and drag, my favorite.
Yeah, Tim Curry gets his own genre. So.
Yeah.
What's something
Or,
you... Oh, go ahead.
how about Forbidden Planet?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I love
a
That's
great
a classic.
Yes, definitely.
What's something you've learned from horror movies?
Don't look back.
Very,
Good one.
very smart. And
Why they're always looking, and don't call out into the dark. That's just stupid.
you're asking to die.
Exactly.
What's your favorite decade of horror?
I would say 1930s.
Oh wow,
Ooh.
I like it. We've never had that
Going
answer.
way back, yeah. Going to the start. What's your favorite line from a movie that you've worked on? Like favorite quotes?
That I've worked on?
Yeah, so it could be from Texas Chainsaw, if you want.
Let's see. Yeah, there were a few good lines in Texas Chainsaw that I really like. I got a bad feeling about this, Bert.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite line from the movie.